got this job, was working, doing tile work, construction. I didn't know what to do.
And he pulls me outside and he points up at the sign, and the sign says, God will provide.
There was the time when we started posting, and all of a sudden there was this breaking point.
I just can't believe you're getting this emotional this early, Nick.
Feliks and Andrea, thank you guys so much for sitting with me. How are you guys?
Good. We're happy to be here.
Yes, I know we've been talking about this for a while.
Yeah.
And finally it's here.
Finally, you guys came all the way from Puerto Rico. So really honored that you guys could sit with me. Just for those that, don't really know who you are, you guys are artists. Feliks, you're a painter, and together you guys have this social media platform that you use to, post different content. You do tutorials, different lessons and things like that, but also just knowing you guys, I know you guys love the Lord, right? And you have a heart that just loves Jesus, follows Jesus, and you're very open with your faith. And I love even the platform that you have, that you've been given. I mean, it's very successful, it reaches a lot of people, and you guys use it to share your faith and just post scriptures and things like that. So I mean, that's so encouraging for me, and I'm sure for so many people that follow you guys. And I wanted to just start off, maybe you guys could just share just openly, about your story, kind of how you got here, and I know, Andrea, you run sort of the business side of things as well. And so maybe you could share into that as well. But yeah, maybe Feliks, you could start just talking about even growing up, because obviously we know each other, we're cousins, and so we grew up together.
Yeah.
And I remember as a little kid, I'd come over to your house, which is, this house actually, and you would have your paintings and your drawings everywhere, and you were probably I don't know, you're probably 13 years old, and you're having all these awesome paintings of Porsches and flowers and mountains.
To be the cars.
Yeah, I remember the cars. Yeah, but it would just blow my mind as a little kid. I'm like, man, this guy is so talented. You all over your room, you would have, just all this art, and so I definitely know it was something in you, even from an early age. So yeah, can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having us here. It's an honor, and we are just excited to share, the testimonies and just kind of the stories that God has, the way He has showed so many times in our life, in our business, and what we're doing right now. So this is, Andrea, my wife.
Yeah.
We've been married, 9 years?
Yes.
9 years. I have to double check.
Yeah.
But it's been great. And so the reason why I have her is because I couldn't do this without her, it's, once we did this together as a team. Even though I did art on the side, but she is more of the business side, and she helped me create products, and we'll get into that later. But so you want me to share kind of the brief story of how
just even growing up, growing up, having this in your heart, and did you feel like this was something you were called to do?
Yeah.
Or did you just kind of naturally flow into it,
Okay, so I'll and then if I talk too much, interfere,
Yeah, no worries.
because I can do it. So okay, so I started, I would say the first time when I started drawing, and I would say probably third grade, from what I remember. And from there I was just sketching something in me right there, and then it just brought me to this happy place, it's instead of playing cards or toys, that was my toy, know. And so that's why I kind of started leaning towards it. And another thing that kept me pushing was I noticed this substitute teacher would notice that I would sketch and draw, and so she would always encourage me. She would be like, I see, this is such a good hand, you drew a hand or a car, it's so good, this is awesome, you should continue. By the way, there's this after class, after school, we do a 30-minute thing where kids gather and they sketch and draw. So why don't you join that? And I was afraid. I was like, I don't know, I just want to be with my family. And I was like, first I was kind of nervous about it, but then because the art was exciting to me, so I was like, I get to play, why not, so I decided to stay. Parents didn't know this, they were like, yeah, you can keep my kid for the whole day, it's okay. No. But but anyway, no, we were there like drawing, and I remember that encouragement from some of my teachers, and kind of guiding me to do this more. And my parents, they encouraged us to. They were happy that we did art and did something that's better than goofing around or getting into trouble.
Yeah.
So they weren't like, oh, you should continue doing this, that. And it wasn't something that was like. I understand that they maybe didn't give much encouragement because they grew up differently. Art was not really encouraged as a job or anything.
Yeah.
So I didn't get that encouragement much from them, and I don't blame them at all for it. I totally understand. But the teachers, I remember, and some of the friends of mine, I remember in elementary, middle school, going in like, hey, can you paint me a car? I painted a car at home. I brought it to school, and one of my friends, oh, dude, I want one too. I want to put it. Remember those binders where you put pictures in the binders? Like those. So they would like show we're so proud of it and put it in their binders and show their friends and walk around with binders and so that made me kind of excited, like, oh, somebody appreciates the art that I drew. It makes me happy and they're happy. And so I continued doing art, and then really when I started doing painting was in high school. And in high school I started experimenting with acrylics, I would say oils, watercolor, and just every kind of color, like dirty kind of medium. And from there I was like, okay, oils, they smell a lot. They were kind of like affecting my eyes. But acrylics was the thing that was challenging because it dries fast, but it was easier to work with, in my opinion. Less of materials around. And then from there, I was working around, developing, kind of trying to find a way to make acrylics work with my drawings, because my drawings, drawing is totally different. With paint, it's like a new thing, so I'm starting all over again. But again, any elective I had in high school, I wanted to take art classes, anything creative, So I took all the art classes, and there was nothing else to take, And I loved it. And something, again, I didn't see it as like a job. More of like a hobby and thing that I enjoyed doing. I didn't like plan to do anything really with it, but I had opportunities naturally coming to me, like sharing, hey, there's this place, you should share, your work is pretty good. Why don't you share some art at the coffee shop, And I'm like, yeah, why not? They're just taking up space. I'll go ahead and do that. And so that was in high school. Like towards the end of high school, I started collecting more of my pieces. I developed a little bit of skill with painting with acrylics, and then so I started taking them to Ristretto's coffee shop. Remember that? Around Mount Vernon, and then from there.
Question about that personally, just how did you have that idea to show at coffee shops? I always wondered about that.
Well, I've had some people, from what I remember, like invite, like say, hey, like you should put your art out, put it out there, and like coffee shops would be a great approach. But also, I remember hanging out with youth group and going to coffee shops, and then I remember walking into the old location of Ristretto's. Remember, it was in the corner where the teriyaki spot is now. So that was the first location where they opened, and so I seen artwork there. And every time I go to different coffee shops, I would see artwork, and I would be like distracted by them when talking to youth and stuff. But be like, man, that looks so pretty, and it just makes the environment so like like relaxed and just kind of artsy,
Yeah, no, it's so cool. Just a couple of things I'd want to add there, and then maybe you could talk about it as well, like into your 20s, just what that process looked like. But I like how you're sharing, first of all, how, this was something that kind of, it sounds like naturally grew inside of you, right? It's like you discovered that, first of all, you were good at this because other people noticed it, like I drew when I was a kid, no teacher ever invited me to, I could barely draw a stick figure, right? And I'm not, it's just like you have certain talents, certain gifts, and you liked it, right? It was like a natural thing that came out of you. And then you had these people that were encouraging you, right? Which was probably a big bonus for you, right? To help you along. And and then all these opportunities started showing up, right? And it made me think about like even David from the Bible, who he was a musician, and he would just shepherd his sheep, and he was like a teenager, and he would just play music, and he wasn't even like trying to look for like some stage or some platform. He was just doing what he loved to do for the Lord, just finding that place. It's almost like you mentioned, like it's almost like an escape, and he's just spending time with God, playing music, and then all of a sudden these doors started opening, right? Like the king invited him, like, hey, there's a guy that plays music over there, like have him come and just play for you, and he started playing for the king, and then more and more opportunities opened up to him as well. And so your story really kind of reminds me of that as well, right? Like you have this desire, you have this talent, and the Lord's in it, and just over time, there's just doors opening up that God's opening up, right?
Naturally.
Naturally. And I think that's a big key thing, that when it's God and He's leading you something, there's like a natural element. Like we were talking before, how there's not that, like you're forced to do things, right? Like you're forced to go to painting classes, or you're forced to speak or whatever. But there's just sort of this desire and this love for it,
Yeah. And like David, he wasn't expecting, or like, oh, I'm gonna right now get this position soon. Exactly. He wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna be a king, or like it just naturally came to his lap, like at the right time. And whenever God feels you're ready, right, He says He'll give you what each person can handle.
Yeah, that's good.
And so like then I started hating the artwork, and at coffee shops, I asked them, hey, do you guys want, and they're like, oh, we'll have space in like a week or two if you want to hang some. Of course, they asked to see some of the work, and I was so happy, I'm like, oh, well, this is just kind of nice, because I always, as a kid growing up, somebody wanted my artwork, I gave them for free, and they would accept it, and they would just enjoy it. It made me happy that they, enjoyed it. And so it was just something nice. I was excited to see like how people, that feeling that I had when I came into the coffee shop, how I was excited about it, seeing the art and got that vibe and like, oh man, this feels like peaceful to me, honestly. And I wanted that for people to feel, when they walk in. So, that's where I kind of started putting art there. But there was moments that was like, I would say that was like towards the end of high school. And then after high school, when I graduated, I got this job, was working, doing tile work, construction, just kind of fireman for a little bit, studied at, for a little bit, did volunteering. Modeling. I didn't know.
Modeling.
I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do, but there was a moment I remember I was telling this to Andrea, like a couple weeks ago. We went to Deception Pass, and I'm like, I would after work go drive by myself and pray really hard, walk by myself by the beach and just watch the sunset and just pray and walk as far as I can. And I just pray and ask the Lord, I just want you to, I don't know, I'm doing all these random things and I'm just a regular person, but I feel something inside of me. I don't know what it is, but I feel like, and I'm getting goosebumps right now. I am. But I just feel like you're gonna do something. I don't know what it is, but I'm praying like sincerely and with excitement, and just like I just remember that feeling of like really opening up my heart to God and just letting God speak to me.
Yeah.
And I'm just getting emotional.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. It's so powerful. I'm just reminded of this king in the Bible who literally prayed this prayer. He said, God, I don't know what to do, but my eyes are on you, Like just
and I know
process.
it's like it's crazy because it's like a story is not that crazy to make anybody like, but it's a personal thing.
Well, I think it's just crazy, like now seeing the ending, because that's the thing is like people, like in each of our lives, we don't know the outcome, but now looking back at the way that like God has worked so many miracles for us to be sitting here and talking to you about this is just incredible. Like I'm getting emotional too, because I see the way that like Feliks has done so much to get to this point that many people don't see. Yeah. But God sees, and it's like he sees everything, and in those moments where you're like so confused or you have no clue what you're going to do with your life or what the outcome is going to be, it can like feel really hopeless. But then to be sitting here and just see like, man, God showed up in so many ways that it's only through him,
It's just that feeling of like you're 100% like just vulnerable and just like at his feet, like, Lord, here I am. I know there's something, but I don't know when it's coming or what's, but I'm here.
Yeah.
And I surrendered, and I felt that right there and then is something.
Yeah.
I just can't believe you're getting this emotional this early, Nick.
It's good. No, it's just powerful.
What did you do to us?
I feel
this
the
is
Lord.
just the beginning of the story.
And so this was like after high school, early 20s, like that area, right?
Yes.
And so yeah, let's maybe talk about in that process, right? Because I know that's also when Andrea came into the picture. And you were sharing earlier how you had these teachers that were encouraging you, but obviously you don't have that in your 20s,
Yeah.
And me and you, we both come from the same culture. Our parents, they grew up in Soviet Union, just difficult times. There's a lot of lack, and it's just hard, and they moved here later in life.
Yeah.
Most of us were babies or just kids when they moved here, like we were very young.
Yeah.
And so obviously there's a different understanding, like in the Soviet Union, no one was an artist. Like that wasn't a thing that somebody did, because you just get shut down so quickly. You had to hustle, you had to work very hard. And obviously we honor that very deeply just in our parents and in that culture, like their sacrifice and what they had to go through to get here. And then now the opportunities that we have. But yeah, again, like just because they love us, it's like, hey, are you sure you want to be an artist? Because it doesn't seem like it's very successful, And so obviously you're in your 20s now and you're having these moments with the Lord, and you're working tile, you're working construction, working jobs here and there, studying a bit. And maybe this is like in the back of your mind, but can you talk about now that process a little bit, and then maybe share about how Andrea came into the picture? And Andrea, you could also just from your side share what that looked like.
Yeah, so my parents, they loved us and they love us still, and like you said, we are so blessed that they decided to come and bring the whole family here to America. I don't know what else would, that's already their sacrifice to come here for us. And now I thank them all the time, actually, because we have so much more opportunity here, and a lot of access. But I would say my parents, they encouraged us to work hard. And one of the things I appreciate about them is that they taught us how to work hard.
Yeah. And
like whatever you do, I remember Dad saying, hey, you're choosing a lot of stuff. Try to choose one thing and like do it well, Of course, I chose kind of like, okay, I'll do the art. No, I'm talking about like tile or something else.
Anything but that.
Anything but that. But he wasn't like me, or like my parents weren't like I actually sometimes I'll bring my paintings and ask mom's advice. What do you think? What do I do here? And mom would always tell me, this, you need to paint this. And I'd kind of be like, I don't want to though. Can you just say it's good enough? But she would tell me that. So I see that as an encouragement and kind of a way that she kind of pushed me too. And now actually I see Andrea does that to me. I would always bring the artwork to her and ask, what do you think? Is it done? Or how do you feel about it? And to me, it matters, her opinion, and so she would share how she, thinks about it. And there's always something I need to add. It's rare where she's like, yes, it's done. When it's like that, we're like, all right, let's go. We're going on a coffee date. Or like, we're going to celebrate because it's done, So in my 20s, I didn't know what to do. I've been doing a lot of random jobs part-time and studying, and thinking that I would do. I actually studied accounting a little bit, thought that would be fun. And
Felix has basically done everything.
And and so it's not a bad thing to try things, experiment. And but I think naturally, like the thing that's been in you, like from you personally, it was naturally already like I couldn't resist in
Yeah,
the
like your
evenings when I
heart
had
leaned
time.
there all the
Yeah,
time.
and I
Yeah.
just found some time to work, even
Yeah.
if it's late at night. I was excited about it. Put in an hour or two to do it, and even though my schedules was busy with school and work or whatever, but then I would say I've been, putting art at coffee shops. Then I was able to go be invited to put some artwork at the hospitals and locally. And so
you went back to school for art, right?
And I went to school for art, I didn't really have a plan. I just took like art and design classes just to see, I thought maybe I'll become an what is it called?
Architect.
Architect. Yeah. I don't
That's like what everyone does if they want to do art,
Yeah.
but they want to still make money.
Yep. Because I'm thinking, okay, what can I do that I still lines up with my passions? And I took some art and design classes, and then I just kind of like gave up on the idea of the architect and just paint, like took painting classes. And naturally, again, it was like, I'm just gonna do this, even it's not gonna maybe pay me or I'm gonna get a degree.
Yeah.
I'm interested in it. And
that's when we met, right?
And that's when we met. And you want to share the story of how?
Were you done?
Yeah, because I'll give her space.
Well, that's
okay. That was enough. My turn. No, I'm joking.
Okay,
No,
that's when we met. He was in arts college. He was taking art classes, and like I remember, at that time, it was kind of like, we just met, and I like. It's kind of like a long story, so I'm not going to tell everything, but him and my brother met at work, and my brother just kind of already knew like that Feliks was a Christian. Like he's like, I think there's this guy, he's a model at Nordstrom. That's where they met. My brother's a stylist, so they met there. And I think he's a Christian. Like he could tell Feliks was a Christian just from the way he was at work. And I'm like, all right, tell me a time and place, and I'm gonna be there to meet Feliks.
Model, like, yeah, and Christian.
And so we met, and we ended up just talking for a while, and then like the whole time we were dating and stuff, it was kind of like I wasn't thinking about finances at all. Like we were just like so in love, and it just like was super fast that we were already like talking about getting married after like 3 months of dating. And my mom, of course, was like, what is he gonna do to like support, like I wasn't even thinking about that. And my mom's like, what's he gonna do? Like he doesn't have a job, he's still in school. I'm like, we're gonna figure it out, and I remember during this time, like this is just one of the things where God just confirmed this relationship. We were both praying about it as we were dating, but one of the things that just really confirmed it for me was I went to my room. I was living with my parents still. I was taking a nap, and I don't dream often, but I had like a very vivid dream. And I was at a store, and I was just like taking stuff off the shelf, putting it in my cart, like with no limits. And I like go to the checkout, and I'm like paying for all this stuff, and I'm like getting worried. I'm like, okay, I obviously don't have money for this, but I'm like checking out all this stuff. I'm like, this is gonna be expensive. And the guy at the counter, he's like, I'm like, I don't have money for this. And he's like, well, don't you know what this store is? And I'm like, no. And he's like, and he pulls me outside, and he points up at the sign, and the sign says, God will provide.
Wow.
And I woke up in that moment, and so that was the dream. And I woke up, and literally 5 minutes before I woke up, my dad had sent me a text, and it was the verse, and my God will supply all your needs according to his riches in Christ Jesus. And so like, it was just through that moment that God just confirmed for me, like, don't worry, like I'm going to take care of you guys, So I knew that despite whatever, like his job, like I think a lot of times as women, and like, I'll maybe talk about this later, but we focus on like the material thing, and while that's important, it's not number one. Like we're here to be a help to our husband, And God is going to provide.
Yeah.
And he has every step of the way, like no matter what. We didn't have any money, and we still were like, people were telling Felix, like, you need to finish school, like you need to like do this and that. But like all the way, God has taken care of us. So we ended up getting married, and my mom's like, what kind of, how many artists do you know that make a living? And I'm like, oh yeah, she's kind of right. But something just kept telling me, like, from this dream and stuff, like, just keep going with it, you know, keep supporting your husband. Like something's going to come from this. And yeah.
And I would just, you know, like, that's thinking back now, like, it's crazy that I would say even now, like, I see it more and more, like, as the years go by, how supportive she is, you know, because it's true, like hearing friends that are not married, or like people that I like know, like that are looking, you know, to get, they have like, oh, I want, you know, they have this checklist, you know, but we found love. We actually prayed about it. We're like, I remember I was parked right here by the parents' house, and I was like, calling her. I'm like, hey, you know, been seeing each other, but like, and it's been like less than a month, but I'm like, I want to make sure before we develop our like relationship even more. I want us to pray, you know, like together, but also separately, and ask if this is God's will. You know, I don't want it to just mess around. You know, I don't know, what's the point, you know? And so, and we both prayed together, and we agreed, and we didn't want to force anything. And then when we did that, it was just like our relationship was naturally again happening without like any kind of tension or a lot of arguments or whatever. You know, every person will have like arguments. We're not perfect, but there's more positives in our lives than those negatives, you know. And so that's what and one of the main reasons is like our relationship with God. Like, I know she loves God, I just know. And she actually would encourage me to even sometimes spend more time reading the Bible, remind me, hey, like, such a good helper, you know. I'm very grateful for her. And like, we didn't have nothing. We didn't have, you know, money, like Andrea was saying. We didn't, but she still was there. She was there. She was like, hey, you know, and I saw that, okay, she's not about the money. She's happy being with me, and she knows that she like trusts me, you know. And so that made me, because she trusts me, that made me feel that responsibility, like, okay, as a man, okay, like I want to do this right, you know, because I don't want to take advantage of this, you know. And so, but anyway, that was our like getting like together and getting married, you know, the process. We didn't have work lined up, you know. We got married, we moved to New York immediately, and imagine getting married and moving to a city where it's expensive and crazy, not having nothing lined up for you really, and just kind of going and figuring it out, you know. And that's kind of what we did. We came there. Andrea didn't have a job. I had like, okay, I had modeling, I had an agency there, but the thing is, with agency, it's not stable. You don't know when your next job is going to come, you know. And so it's like, you know, like,
we slept on an air mattress for 3 months.
Yeah. Air mattress.
But we survived.
And lived, you know, in an apartment. And then it was fun. It was a great experience, but like we didn't have nothing. We literally lived by faith. And so I had some jobs here and there, and then eventually had more opportunities and kind of picked up. And then Andrea found a job. And then so it just, you know, I think we felt peace, like where we were at. The main thing we had was the love for each other, but also the love of God, for God, you know, in us. So we knew that we are His children. The skyscrapers don't scare us, you know.
I think we felt like we didn't have anything to lose because we didn't have anything. We literally didn't have anything. So
that's so good.
I think that a lot of times, like, a lot of the things that have happened in our life are just because of like choosing to walk in faith and take risks and trust God, you know.
No, that's so powerful. And I think even like, I mean, just seeing your guys' story, you know, and knowing you guys throughout all these years, it really does feel like the Lord brought you together for this calling that He has on your guys' lives, you know, because, you know, I could have seen Feliks, let's say in our culture as well, it's kind of out of tradition, let's say, to marry someone who's not Slavic, you know what I mean? And so here comes this Colombian woman.
Actually,
you know?
I was about to share that, so that's good.
And so obviously everyone's kind of shocked, you know. Not, you know, of course we know that it's the Lord, but that was also a shock. But I could also see it like, you know, let's say you just married a nice Slavic girl, you know, not that there's anything wrong with that, but then I just see you kind of like, you know, working tile and starting your own thing in tile, and just kind of like having that fade and become more on the backdrop. Yeah. And then just kind of like, you know, being a family man, not that there's anything wrong with that, but like never going into the thing that you were passionate about, you know? And the way that I see it, it's just like, God was like, no, I'm going to get you there. And the way that I'm going to get you there is I'm going to bring someone to you that you'll need for this, and she'll need you for this as well, you know, and together, like, I'll take you guys there. And so, I mean, would you say that that's...
Yeah, no, you're, you know, I'm glad you brought it up, because when we started dating and like we were getting serious, my parents were like worried. They're like, you know, no girlfriends for my boys, you know. They would say that when we were younger in high school, but my mom was more like, you know, worried that like the culture, you know, they don't know like if they believe the same God, or like if there's crazy differences, or like what. It's just unknown.
Galena's like, I always thought a Russian girl from my boy.
Yeah. She has a good accent.
She told me that. But like, I'm not offended, because I know it's like normal, you know.
Yeah.
And they love you.
They worried for because they cared, so I understand that. But then when they found out that, you know, her like that she believes God, that she's a Christian, her parents are, and my dad, I remember, asked me, he's like, how is she with her parents, you know, how is the relationship with them? Like, I know they're believers, but how is that with them? And so I to me, actually, it was important when we started dating to meet her family right away. I know some relationships, they wait to meet the parents, but to me, I actually wanted to meet the parents right away, you know. And also part of it's just because of Dad's suggestion to, hey, look at the relationship between them, you know. And I saw it. It was beautiful. It was they had love, you know. You didn't even need to try to, like, when I was there, I didn't need for them to try to prove it to me or with words or whatever. I just saw it naturally, you know. It's like spiritually there, you know. And so I saw it. They love each other, and the relationship was strong, and they love God. They were, you know, good people. And so then my dad, I already felt like his blessing. He didn't even need to say much to me. I felt his blessing. And then later on, my mom was still kind of making sure, like, like she was more worried, you know, her child, you know, moms are, I guess, are more sensitive, you know, to certain things sometimes. But anyway, so like mom took a little bit of time, but then mom realized, okay, like if she believes in God, she, you know, her parents, she met her, you know, her side of family, and then from there, mom was more like, okay, you have my blessing. Like, she didn't have to say that, but she felt like released that like worriness, you know. And we felt that together, like, okay, it's going even more smoother. It's getting there. And but anyway, so back to New York, the first year of marriage. We were still in our 20s. I was 25 when I got married, and Andrea was 21. Yes. No, but yeah, so we were young still, you know, and so then from there we lived there almost. So half a year was like a struggle to kind of just make it work, just to pay the bills and stuff. And then the other half was a little better. It was like we're getting momentum with work and everything. But then Andrea's like, she was a nanny over there working for this really rich family, you know, and they would take us to the Hamptons, you know, like, and they would take me. Actually, another job, I was a manny. I would watch kids too, you know.
Weren't you a doorman as well?
And a doorman. Welcome. And it was sad because like when I was a doorman, I think the doorman was the most depressing, and that was when I was the most depressed.
Yeah.
I got to the state. I didn't know what depression was, you know. Growing up, my dad's just like, you know, like,
There's
hey,
no such thing.
there's no, come on, man
Yeah.
up, you know,
Yeah.
this. So like, but that feeling, I was like, I had that like toughness in me, but that feeling that brought me down, man.
Yeah,
like working there.
On the soul.
Yeah, I was just standing at hours on my feet with the church shoes, you know.
Yeah.
It hurt your feet. It was
You had to
it
dress
was a
nice.
Nikes.
Yeah.
And opening the door, and like a lot of people there did not like treated you like a robot, like treated you just an automatic door.
Yeah.
They wouldn't, you know, and so that kind of was sad to me. It got to the point where I'm like, I had thoughts like, look at you, look, you got married. What are you doing? You know, you're a failure. What are you doing? Like you're putting and I had all these negative thoughts attacking me when I was like in that state, you know, and I felt like this almost like, in a way, I don't want to compare, but in a way, like when Jesus was in the you know, in 40 days, you know, in the wilderness, that temptation, the all that pressure was on him.
And I think, just to add, like, I think a lot of people don't realize, you know, there is an enemy out there that we don't see. You know, there is a spiritual world, and oftentimes, you know, God does have a process to take us to where He's called us to be. Mm-hmm. And often, you know, that process is tough, you know, because we need the character to be able to handle it when we get there, you know. But at the same time, you know, the enemy also knows when we're in that process. He sees the call of God in our lives, and so he'll send those thoughts just to like try to like paralyze us, right? Like fear or hopelessness or anxiety or whatever, right? And I think it's important for people to realize like you're not those thoughts, you know. Right. Like they might be bombarding you, and you might have like a tough season of just like feeling heavy in the soul and having all these thoughts coming at you, but that's not who you are, you know. That there's someone who's resisting you, that doesn't want you to get to where God's called you to get to.
Yeah. Exactly.
But God is stronger on the inside of you than any of that resistance.
Amen. You know? Amen. That's so true. So good. And the crazy thing is, it's like we're just sharing what we really lived. This is not just a story from somebody else. And like there's so many stories like that, you know, and so that's why this feels so real. And I get goosebumps and emotional because it's real, you know. And so there was moments where now as a doorman, I would work at different parts of New York. And then there was one door at Tiffany's, you know, I'd have to wear this pink suit, and it was super cold.
Pink?
Like pink jacket.
Blue.
Or blue, sorry. Blue.
Tiffany blue.
Blue, the light blue, light blue. Okay, she corrected
Pink would have made it a lot tougher.
Pink would have made it. Remember in high school, pink color, or like middle school,
like
pink
there
pride,
was a thing where like guys
the
went pink,
color, that pink. Maybe that's why I said pink.
Okay. So
anyway, you can cut that out if you want, or made it a headline.
I think we'll keep it just in case someone needs.
You share that clip on Instagram.
So but anyway, I wore this and I was standing there, you know, and it was super cold. I remember it was like freezing, like when you know, winter time, it gets super cold and the breeze, and I'm standing out there. They wouldn't let you stand inside. Like this other job, at least I was warm and cozy, but I was put even to a worse spot. And I'm standing 8 hours there. My fingers are numb holding this thing. And I remember they didn't care. That was my job, welcoming people. And at one point, multiple times where I couldn't feel my hand like opening the door, and it was so heavy because I was just cold, you know. Because like, okay, it's one thing to move your body, but I'm like standing 8 hours, like just, you know, like getting cold, you know, no fire, no, you know. And watching tons of people walk by and stuff, and it was such a crazy experience. But I'm glad that if I go back, like if I were to go back, I would do it again, because it made me more appreciate and more humble, and more like it taught me how to be more patient, more you know, a lot of those things,
understanding
dependent on God. No, it's really good. And I like how you just mentioned it. It made me think of Joseph, and you know, from the Bible, and you can see this in David too, where a lot of times, you know, they had this call on God on their lives, and then they go to this tough season, you know, where let's say Joseph, he gets sold into slavery, you know, or David the king tries to kill him, right, and he has to go on the run, and then they're in this tough season, and they're like being faithful, they're depending on God, and then it like gets worse for a while before it gets better. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And like Joseph is a slave, but then he goes to prison
That's
for like a couple years. Or David's on the run, but then like he has to leave the nation and like live with the enemy for a while. And so it kind of sounds like to me like that's kind of what you went through too. It was like a tougher season, and then it just got to this like breaking point.
Yep. And it was and it got even worse.
Yeah.
It got even worse. So that's the crazy thing. So that it was bad already, and I was depressed. I would come home. Me and Andrea also, she was tired of coming home. Subway system running around. We didn't have a car, so we walked a lot and just ran around. The city's crazy there. But by the time we get home, and we lived like 45 minutes away.
Yeah, like 40 minutes, something like that.
On the train. And we'd get to our place, and there was, I would say multiple times, but I remember one time clearly, I think we even have a photo, or I remember, but we sat down. We were like so tired to eat dinner, so tired to make dinner, and we both just held hands and just fell to
asleep
the bed.
on our bed.
Fell asleep just like this.
In our
like
clothes.
This with on our clothes, just like that. And we woke up at like in the morning, just what just happened. And we were shocked, but that's how tired and beat we were. But anyway, so to that worser part, right? So after that,
let's get to the worst part.
but again, back to the thing that God gives what we can handle, because He gave that, like, okay, that was pretty bad to me, but he was like he gave me that little space of breather to gain my strength back before something bad is gonna happen. But I think he this needed to happen. I see it now even more. But so basically there was a little break of like, I still did that job, but then I started finding more job of catering. So I catered for, like
another job.
Yeah. Another, like, also like wearing
it was
suits
for, like,
and
fancy rich people.
And it's like we would cater a lot, and now I'm happy. I'm on my feet running around, but then I'd also be tired because my feet hurt. You're wearing the church shoes, and then but it was a lot better. I was so grateful for that job, even though it was tough work. I was like, oh, thank you, Lord. And there was times where we would work like such a long shift that like the manager, they would treat us kind of poorly. Unfortunately, they would like just give us random pasta that is not cooked all the way, and they just give us cups to kind of grab, no spoons, cups like this, and we just have to eat it like with cups that in the small little space, like 30 of us. It was to feed us to get back to work, and so the food was really bad, the way they, but I was thankful that I'm not standing, and was that I was like still freezing. Fine doing that, I was like running around,
half-cooked pasta,
half-cooked pasta, no meat. And so I
remember Felix would come home at like 4 a.m, so I'd like go to bed and he'd come home like way later.
Yeah, it'd be like because we would start like working around like 7-8 in the evening. That's when. But anyway, so then it got a little better. But then I was like, okay, I'm gonna start looking for work on Craigslist, see if I can find like the creative side, because there was moments where I still painted in the evening, but not as often when I was single and when we were still here together. I painted more. But I had a break of painting, didn't work on it that much, but something was still inside me, like it's still there. And I looked at Craigslist and found this gallery job, and they needed a volunteer to work at a gallery in this popular street and to hang work, other people's art. And so I got this job, and so it was like a part-time thing, and I was so happy, even happier. I was like, Lord, thank you. This is my space. They allowed you to wear headphones, listen to music, and they just teach you how to hang art, manage art, take care of other people's art, and the price is between $5,000 to $50,000, and you handle those. That was the kind of gallery, and so I was working for them and handing art, and was so happy that I had this job. And it was summer. I remember it got warmer. It was like just fun. Like I was just like jolly, But then that's when Andrea was like feeling that, like, okay, I feel like I need to go back to school. Like I had
this time where I was like, my boss started to like really like the work I was doing, and she was offering me a raise and like a new position. Like, okay, instead of just being my nanny, she was like a best-selling author. She's like, how about you be my personal assistant and nanny? and I want to like give you a raise and all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And I was like at this moment where it's like a crossroads where you're thinking like, okay, I can either make this decision or I can go back to school and like pursue what I want to do with my life, you know?
Yeah.
I knew that if I chose to be her assistant, I would be doing that my whole life probably. So I was like, I feel like I need to go back to school. I told Felix, like, all right, let's decide that if I get into school, like I applied for Western because it was in-state tuition. We weren't technically New York residents yet. And so if I get in, we'll move back to Washington. So of course I got in. We decided to move back. And at that exact moment, Felix also was like given this like new job opportunity. They were going to pay him like twice as much an hour and like all this stuff. And we're like, oh, like, and he didn't have anything set up in Bellingham. And we're like, oh boy, like, do we take this opportunity or like, do we go back? And we felt like we needed to come back here. That's another like leap of faith there because we had nothing set up here. And Bellingham's such a small city. Like Felix is like, I just got settled. Yeah, like I
Compared
have
to Mount Vernon, Bellingham's kind of a big city.
Yeah.
Compared to New York. It's
yeah. And so it's like we have these two opportunities now to like finally get up in the world. And now like we're going back again, you know? But we just felt like God was leading us that way. And so we did it. And I was here going back to school and Felix was still like fighting that calling, you know, it's like God was telling him to come here. But in his mind, he's thinking, no, there's nothing for me in Bellingham. Like I'm going to keep going back and forth for modeling jobs, do what I have to do. Like in his own strength, I guess he was thinking that way. But God was, the funny thing is like our business started in Bellingham. So like had we not come back to Bellingham, we probably would not be doing what we do. And so
that's really good.
Yeah.
If I could just add a point there. Also just I'm just thinking about David a lot when I think of you guys and your guys' story. And I want to get into a little bit later as well when we talk more about like your art process and whatnot. But I was just reminded how like, you know, David's going also through these difficult seasons. And there was a time when like a door opened to him where Saul came before him. And all of David's like friends are like, dude, just kill Saul and become king on your own. Like this is God giving you this opportunity. Just kill him, and like that's it. You'll be king. But David in his heart knew that even though like this seems like an open door, just like for quick and easy, that this isn't where God is. Like and where God is still maybe like obscure, and it's unknown, like what will happen if I go in this direction, like if I spare him and I still have to go on the run. But he knew, and it just reminded me of this principle that sometimes like you're in that process with the Lord and these open doors will happen, and it's almost like a test to see like, hey, are you going to take the quick and easy way out right now, or are you going to stick with my voice and like my call on your life and obey, so that later on, you know, it'll end up a lot more blessed than if you just take quick and easy right now, you know.
Totally. And there has been multiple times where in the moment you don't feel like, oh, it's a test. You feel like an opportunity. Ooh, you know. And you're like thinking, and actually before we moved to New York, I had a job opening, as a better job opening for the city. And I was like, babe, maybe I should take that.
That's right.
You know,
That's
I
right.
had
You
that.
worked in like waste management.
Waste management. There was a position, you know, like
at the poop plant.
All of Felix's jobs today.
No, because like again, like I didn't care about money, honestly. I don't care about like things or materials. I mean, okay, I wouldn't say it like of course you care about a nicer home, right? Make things nicer. Of course we do. We renovated the bathroom, sure. But like just like if it's gone today, that's fine. You know, I'm like you
have that walk.
Yeah, and so like but I just wanted to like, I don't know, something in me was like I don't really care about those things, but I just kind of feel like I want to do something that I feel naturally like inside me wanted to do, and I feel like peace in it, you know?
Yeah, you want to follow the peace.
Yeah, but I know that he actually was excited about that opportunity. I was like, babe, just so you know, if you take that job, you're going to be here like doing that forever.
Okay,
like,
and that why I was excited, real quick, sorry, is because because as like our culture, like we came here, we know like most of us work construction. So to do something different, like wastewater, like and to become an operator or something for the city, that's like kind of still rare. And that's why I was like, oh, somebody wants me to work for the city, like they're giving me this opportunity, Russian guy, like that's how I felt. That's why I was excited. I'm like, somebody is like, wow, I'm actually getting this opportunity, and I've always done like the dirty work. And so, but then Andrea's like, no, we're gonna go, there's more. And I felt like, yeah, she's right. Something was in me. It's like, okay, she's probably right. She's right.
It's interesting because when you guys are taking these leaps of faith, it seems like God is speaking to both of you, right? Like it's not just one of you that's just like, I want this, and the other one's like, nope, I want this.
Yeah.
But both of you internally feel like, no, we both know that God is leading us this way.
Yeah, like
would you say that's the case for all of these times where there was like a leap of faith and just like even a sacrifice, to move or to leave something behind?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah, no, totally. Like she would encourage me, like, and I would encourage her sometimes, and it's like we work together. But there's many stories. Like, for example, the story about moving back to Bellingham. That was the part where I was telling you it got worse.
Yeah, because Bellingham was worse.
No, not
kind
Bellingham.
Of, yeah.
Well, kind of.
Yes,
but
Bellingham was the worst.
Well, here, let me explain. This is interesting because materialistically and like without work and like it was worse. But spiritually, I was at peace.
Yeah.
Something in me was like, I was more relaxed.
Yeah.
I didn't have nothing. I had more in New York, and everything. And I was building something, but I felt more like relaxed here. Like everything was just, I felt peace even more greater. And that's something you can't really buy or whatever.
Yeah, no, it's so good.
But like that crazy thing that happened in New York is the 3 months when she was in school, I was kind of going back and forth. And I stayed with these guys. One of them's from my modeling agency and a photographer. And we just they allowed me to stay there. But they were not believers, and they kept nagging at me and kind of like, they didn't like that I was kind of a Christian. And so they would test me. Like we had fire pits, we'd like hang out. And I'd hang out with them, and they would test me and like really try to like corner me.
Yeah.
And there was moments where I couldn't answer the questions from the Bible. I'm like, hey, look, I'm still like growing, I'm still learning myself, but I feel like it's like, it's not like, I tried my best to explain in the way I was at that time. And I'm like, Christianity, I believe it's not forced. It's everything's, we're like, you're growing in, like, there's things that I don't know in the Bible, everything, but like we just ask the Lord or have him guide me, and I figure this life with him. It's not that
it's real, it's seen in lifestyle, right? And you might not always have the best like articulation or the best words to say to like answer someone's question, but they can't deny that like you're a loving person, or they can't deny that you're generous, or they can't deny that like you keep yourself away from a certain lifestyle, like that speaks to them, even though if you don't always have, let's say, all the best Bible answers, still that heart speaks to them.
And so they would ask me, and I would answer the best I could, but then we would hang out, and then over time I felt like they were really, really like they were really on me, and I was staying with them, and I felt like something, I'm trying to do everything right. I even painted paintings for them. I thanking them. I didn't have much money to give them, so I gave them by giving them paintings. Hey, this is for you. Take this. Yeah. Like,
but I think like it was just like obvious that it was time for you to like come back.
And my dad called me, I remember, said, hey, you should go back to your wife, be with her, you figure it out. But I right there was stubborn. I wanted to hold my thing, like
because he thought that was the only way to make money. It's like being in New York, making money, and coming back to Bellingham. He didn't think there was anything in Bellingham.
I wanted to provide, and I knew that I had a better opportunity. I was doing better. I started like getting and I just didn't want to let go, right? And I felt that pressure, and then it just got to the point where I wouldn't let go, that I started crying in the streets. I didn't want to go back to the apartment where I stayed with those guys, because it just felt so uncomfortable, and pressure, and just the way they treated me, it just felt really nasty and bad, and that there's no love. I felt like no love there at all, and I remember in a coffee shop sitting, and I just couldn't help it, and started crying there, and just like walked out in the street and praying to God again, the second time, that where I'm like, Lord, what am I doing here? What am I, that kind of openness, like when I did by the beach, when I was still confused. And then again, I prayed on the street, walking and praying, Lord, like, what is this? What's happening? This is like even worse than the doorman, that pressure, this is a next level thing, because that was more physical pressure, but now this is mentally emotional pressure. And that
Spiritual.
was some different level, and I'm like, what is happening to me, But then just my heart like changed. I was like, Lord, I'm gonna let go. I'm gonna let go.
Like a breaking point. Like something snapped inside of you.
Something snapped inside of me, and I'm like, I'm gonna choose to let go back and trust the Lord completely. Wow. And that's what I did. And that's why I say it was physically hard. We didn't have much stuff in Bellingham, but spiritually I was like happy and
and that's where things slowly started, right, in Bellingham, with the business and just social media, and I know you guys lived in Bellingham for a while, and then Seattle area for a while, Ballard, and then now you guys are of course in Puerto Rico, and now full-time artists, right? Would you say when you started the business in Bellingham, has it been like a very slow burn kind of process of it slowly developing, or was there just a moment where things kind of like took off, like it was like, and suddenly things took off,
It was like, I think, so Felix started, I had seen like one artist that she had a following, and she was like a friend of my mom's, and it was like her daughter. And so I was like, I want to talk to her and like see what she's doing, like how she was able to like make a living with art. So I like reach out to her, and we meet up with her, and she shares like all the things she knows about Instagram and stuff with us. And from there, I'm encouraging Felix, like, start just recording some like video time lapse of your process. And like, if you go back and look at them, they're like so bad. Like the camera's off center. It's like, like some random part in his process.
I used I had a vacuum cleaner and duct tape my phone.
We didn't have money for a tripod, so Felix would like do that.
Hey, it's what's in your hands. You started with it.
Yeah, and so like the first year, like he said, I remember him calling me one day, and he's like started posting more consistently like his art. And I remember he was like out of town, like working with his brother construction, and he's like, babe, I woke up this morning and my post had like 500 likes on it. He's like, I had to like rub my eyes. I was like so confused. And then I just remember like he just kept sharing. He kept sharing and sharing. And at first it was like took some time, but I would say with the first year he grew like 100,000 followers, and the next year he got to 500,000. So like it was actually like almost too fast. Like I personally didn't know anything about online business, and he like had this like really big explosion of followers, and we didn't even know what to do with it. And it's like now I'm learning all the like technical business stuff that like I wish I knew back then when I was starting. Well, when we were both starting. But it was almost like too fast that we didn't even know what to do with it. But yeah, in the beginning, I remember just even praying for him, like, because I knew that he hated construction. He didn't know what he wanted to do. Like, I was thinking, I remember like praying and like also thinking to myself, like, I don't know how this is going to work, because like I'm in school, we have no money. like all these things were very stressful, but I remember just praying to God, like, Lord, you see Felix's heart, you see his love for art. I pray that you would just take it to places that we never could on our own. And that was like my prayer over and over, like, Lord, take this to places that we never can on our own. And like it makes me emotional because he totally did. Like even though like I could tell you all the social media things, I could tell you all the online business things, but it's totally just God.
It's that trust. Trust in him leads to faith.
And so it took some time, but it's like, again, we had to go through that time, like through the emotional to the physical pain and that breaking point, right? And that's kind of what happened with that. Like there was the time when we started posting, and all of a sudden there was this breaking point, and we didn't know when that was going to come, right? And it happened, and then and also, like, we met, like Andrea said, with this other artist, and she gave some insight.
Other people spoke into
it. Other people, again, and I noticed that, like, others people spoke, encouraged. You can't do it alone, you see. And that's why I'm so, like, passionate about, like, she's my wife. We're one, right? And she's been standing next to me this whole time, you know, one of the greatest supports, you know, and a lot of people have, you know, like, and now a lot of people support, even I'm grateful for those.
And a lot of people didn't.
And a lot of people didn't.
There's always that too.
But that's the thing is like also that I want to encourage people is like even the closest people to us, like my mom, like she knows that she doubted in the beginning, and like I don't blame her for that. Just like Felix's parents, they doubted in the beginning. We don't blame them for that. But if you're doing something different, it doesn't mean that like you should stop. It means that you're probably on the right track. And like if people are coming against you, it doesn't necessarily mean that like you should stop. It means like you should pray about it. Because like even your parents can maybe not agree with something you're doing.
People that are closest to you, right? Like David's parents, his family were like, dude, who are you, dude? Like, go carry your sandwiches to the
and I did
people. Literally.
Carried sandwiches.
Literally. But I mean, again, you see that all throughout the Bible as well. Just people, they're in this process, and then this breaking point comes where they just choose to trust God. Like, Lord, I don't know what it looks like. It doesn't logically make sense. Like circumstances are not telling me that you're guiding me here, but I just choose to trust you. And it sounds like there was the moment that finally it's just like, okay, and then bam, it's just lifted up. And how old were you when the art business started moving forward?
I would say I was like 27.
27,
I believe, and so that's when it started picking up, but we still weren't, like Andrea said, didn't know what to do with it. Yes, we had this following, but we're like, okay, we had more eyeballs. Maybe some people bought some paintings more, you know, like a little more, but still, it wasn't just enough to make it a full-time thing, you know. But then we heard the audience, you know, like the audience was the one that was encouraging us to open up. Hey, can you show how you do it? What materials you use? You know what? And we're like, oh, we should teach them or like show them what we do. But so then Andrea encouraged me to open up YouTube, which I didn't want to. I didn't want to speak on the camera. I don't like that kind of stuff. But
I had to beg him.
She did it, and again, I had to like, you know, humble myself and do it. And I did it, and I'm like, I'm glad that I did it now, you know, and but from there, then people are like, so YouTube took about almost a year, right, to get more like monetized and start like getting something, seeing something, like, and then from there, like I was still working construction, modeling, tameta, random jobs, you know, and so the whole time English and that one part Russian. And so then from there, like we were slowly like stopping those certain jobs, until we were able to like quit everything. I remember holding my dirty clothes, my boots, construction clothes, really dirty, and I'm like, you know, goodbye, putting it in the bag. Like first I put it in the bag and kind of black bag and put it in the closet. Andrea's like, no, just throw it away, let it go, let that go, you know, move forward. But I'm like, just in case, right there, and then. And then, but no, then eventually I did let it go. And it just, from there, we just started really working together. But I want to do, Andrea should share a story, how she studied in school and then she changed to helping me.
Yeah, so for me, I didn't know for a long time what I wanted to do. Um, I was always like passionate about medicine or like business, but I didn't really know anything about business. Um, so I was pursuing becoming a naturopath, which is like a natural doctor. It's like 8 years of school. So I had finished my bachelor's in Bellingham, and I was at the point where like I had applied to my doctorate school and I got accepted. It was like June, and he had hit 100,000 followers on Instagram, but we still hadn't been like making money. Like we would make painting sales every once in a while, but it wasn't anything like super stable. And I was at the point where I was like, okay, should I keep pursuing my doctorate, or should I drop that and help my husband like fully? And so I just remember calling my brother, and my brother just gave me some advice, and he was like, look, you can always go back to school, like if that's something that you want to do later, but this could be like a once in a lifetime opportunity. Like you should just pursue it and see what happens. And so I decided to go all in and help Felix, and just like through the process, I've just been like learning on YouTube and like through trial and error and like all this stuff. But yeah.
Why I wanted her to share that story is because I feel like she studied so hard. I remember seeing the sleepless nights, just the sweat that she put into her schooling. And now she had a choice to face, to let go, that choice, like to either help or to, and I was like, hey, I will support you if you go choose that way. I don't want to, so I didn't really like give her like, I'm like, I will support you either way, And so it was her personal choice to make, and she then prayed about it, asked some advice, and then she made her decision. And but to me, it's interesting because it's like all that hard work, and you let go of that, and just to start everything completely not sure if it's gonna work.
No, it's good. It's good. Kind of like what your guys' story, like the theme of it is, it's like a lot of sacrifice, a lot of leaps of faith, a lot of just trusting in the Lord, and giving up what's like known and comfortable, and like where you feel like, oh, but it feels like I would be secure here, to just follow like that internal, and I believe just like the voice of the Holy Spirit, right? The voice of God just leading you. And of course, it was the Lord, because now you guys are full-time in it, and you have a family, you have a son, and you guys have a home in Puerto Rico. I visited. It's beautiful. Felix, you taught me how to surf a little bit. So it's awesome. And again, I mentioned this earlier, and I think it's so beautiful that, you guys use this platform to just be open with your faith, and you, like, I've seen posts where you talked about how, like, the inspiration for this came from like a revelation from God, or some kind of vision from God, or you'll like write down a scripture. I like the little thing you do where you'll write a scripture and then you'll paint over, and again, you have almost 1 million followers, and you're sharing with these people the faith, and you're sharing that, like, my source is my God, whom I follow. And I think that's awesome, right? That you're able to use this platform to just bring glory to God. I was sharing with you earlier before we were recording. When I was in Amsterdam, I visited the Van Gogh Museum, and obviously he's an amazing artist. It was beautiful art, and it had like his life story kind of with his art written out there. And I didn't know this before I went there, but his dad was a pastor, and Van Gogh, when he was young, he was a preacher. Like, his dad would make him go and like preach to minors, but he didn't like it. Like, he didn't feel like that was what he was called to do. And I think him and his dad had like a falling out, because Van Gogh wanted to paint, he wanted to do this art. And so he left, kind of traveled throughout Europe just painting, but wasn't really recognized during his lifetime. And then obviously later on, you could see that he started struggling with just like mental illness, right? Like, cut off his ear, and then of course, sadly ended up killing himself at the end. But it just made me think, like, man, like, this guy had this gifting from God, like, because his paintings were beautiful, like, everybody knows the night sky, it was just a beautiful painting, and had this gifting from God, and had like a godly upbringing too, where he knew, the word of God was being preached, and was sharing it with others. but there was no place for that expression to be found, where he could use this gift to bring glory to God. At least maybe back then. Maybe if you were like some cathedral painter, but for the everyday person, right? Like it was either you're a preacher and that's your ministry, or you're just like go plow the fields, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so obviously, he left, and I think probably the enemy used that, in his circumstances and discouragement and just that hopelessness, even maybe what he was trying to put against you, right? And obviously it didn't end well with him, but it just made me think like, man, the blessing to be able to now like have this platform to be able to share your artwork with, right? And so I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about just right now, and thank you guys thank you for sharing your story. It was very beautiful. Are you guys still good? You want to like a little tiny break, or
you are leading?
Yeah,
we're fine. Yeah,
okay,
we're good.
Good. Yeah. So I wanted to ask how, like, obviously you're painting constantly, and I see I follow you as well, and I see your tutorials. I mean, and you have just paintings coming out of you. Like you probably have more paintings than socks, Like, I mean, it's just you paint so much, And it's always different, you'll have like a season where you're doing one thing, you'll have a season where it's another thing, like one where it's like scenery, one where it's people, one where it's like abstract stuff, And I wanted to ask about like, what does your relationship with God look like in that creative process, Like, do you pray and just ask the Lord for like inspiration and ideas of like, what should I paint, or do you ever have like dreams where you just see something, right? Or like you're reading the Bible and something like inspires you to paint something, right? Or maybe you're painting it and you feel like the presence of God, right? Come upon you as you're painting, and it's just kind of like, it's like you get into that flow, and it's like you're unstoppable in that moment. Just maybe you could share briefly like what does it look like in that space when you're painting your...
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think like for me, like I would definitely pray. I'd pray like for example, like Lord, I like not sure what I'm gonna do this week or what I'm gonna create, but I have this desire to experiment or create something fun, just to play with it. And I think God wants to work together. He doesn't want to force. He wants you to have fun. He wants you to live this life, do what you're called to do, but enjoy it with God.
Exactly.
And so like he wants you to. It could be God's a creator. He created so many beautiful things, and I think part of it. That's why I'm inspired by nature, because there's so much beautiful design and just how everything's smell, like the air, the leaves, the flowers. There's just so much beauty out there, and I see it, everything in God. That's God. That's God's hands.
God is the best painter.
And I mean it's that simple, but like in a way, like I just that like he doesn't put that limit, like I'll just focus on landscapes, or because I want you to, that's your thing. I feel like for me, like if I ask God, like if I'm asking Lord, I want to do this thing, and it's not like magical, like oh, I got an idea, that's it. It's,
sometimes it is.
Sometimes it is, but I'll tell you more often it's not. More often I just pray, just Lord, bless this day, bless our work, bless my wife, what she's doing, and lead, help us throughout this day, what needs to be done, what we can do
together.
And we do it together. We go to our spaces, and then I just kind of sketch and plan and design, and so it just naturally comes, the ideas, if I'm doing abstract or some interesting experimental. But like, for example, this recent one I did, my son was born, Lev, and his room was full of art that wasn't sold. It was just there. And a lot of it, half of it was like practice paintings. So I like didn't know what to do with them. And I'm like, all right, I want to do something with them, but I don't know what. So I had this idea, like, why don't you cut up the paintings and not just throw them away, or like, you recycle them and create one painting so that it creates space. It's a win-win. You're not really, you're kind of damaging your work, but you're still making it into a canvas. You're putting it back, and make one piece. And I started doing that recently, that idea. And I just saw this older artist I was inspired by on Instagram. And I saw him, and he paints Bible stories. He paints Jesus and the Holy Lamb, like he paints in a kind of like cubism style. And I was really moved by that. And I'm like, I want to do a Jesus portrait. I just felt like I don't do portraits at all. And if I wasn't a believer, if I wasn't a Christian, if I didn't have the right for God, I don't think I would have the idea to wanting to create a Jesus painting. Nobody, I don't think I would. But because I feel like I know God, and God knows me. Like I believe like I'm His child. It naturally like. Without like too much planning, it came to
But
me.
I also think even the idea, not even just about Jesus, but like the idea for this piece, even that was inspired by like the Holy Spirit.
Yes, definitely.
Like you think it's just like cleaning out the room or whatever, but like I think that idea actually was inspired.
No, for sure. Yeah, I agree. It started from,
because I feel like sometimes like you're saying like you have these paintings that you're like, oh, I'm just gonna paint this nature scene or whatever. Like you don't feel like it's that inspired, but sometimes he gets these ideas, or like he'll be like, babe, last night I was dreaming and I had this idea like to cut up my artwork or something. That's how I know it's like from God.
and like, why Jesus, right? Like, okay, you painted Jesus, so what's next? I believe that like when it's not about the thing, like, and again, this is like a materialistic thing. It's like Moses' stick. God used that to make snakes and do stuff with the stick. It's like, it's just a thing, a tool. And I believe this is just I felt like when I do share it, somebody will be reminded of Christ. That's all it takes. Sometimes I don't think like you don't, everybody has a different way to be the light to the world. And and I feel like through reminding even nature scenes when I create like and tutorials, I would get messages from people that have cancer or other people that are depressed or Down syndrome or whatever, and they're like sharing pictures of them painting, and it makes them so happy. That feeling, I was like, whoa, I never thought that I would create this painting and that this lady with her son would sit there for hours and enjoy, and the son would be so happy. That so just cool. Brings me joy, to see that like loving on people like that, so it's not like, to me, like I believe like for like as a believer, it's more like about the love for people, for instead of a cool painting.
That's powerful. That's powerful, man. Just getting goosebumps thinking about all those people,
then there's many testimonies. I would be, Andrea would share, like we would get emails and just so many amazing testimonies like that. Like I was so depressed, I didn't know what to do with my life, but when I started following your lessons and painting, the joy and I just felt life again, and I don't know, so I would pray about pieces and inspiration, and then I also am inspired by like really people and nature and everything, testimonies like just there's so much things around, it's endless.
For sure. I love that you mentioned nature, because I love nature, and I feel like the older I get, the more I love nature, and I have this thought often. I'll like look at a sunset and I'll be like, man, there's no two the same sunsets. Like every sunset is unique in its color, the clouds, the atmosphere, whatever causes the sunset to look that way. Every single time it's just like perfectly unique, but it's always beautiful, and it kind of testifies of just, the beauty of the Creator, and just His heart and His enjoyment and His creation, and how that's like reflected in us, even in just being able to like create things, whether it's painting, whether it's writing, whether it's just any form of art, whether it's speaking, whether it's fashion, and would you say, like, because you've mentioned nature a number of times, like do you find yourself like the more you're in this, the more you just want to like get away and spend time in that nature, and just the more appreciation you have for it?
Part of the reason why like we also moved to Puerto Rico, I love the bright, the evening birds and the frogs, at night, and the crickets. It's and just the sounds and the just the life. There's so much life there, and it just so it just gets me excited because I feel like I'm in paradise, but it always reminds me of God. Like I think about these things and think about like, okay, this is God. He created us for us to enjoy, and I just feel that's how I feel that God is around me. I cannot escape nature. It's there, and once I get out the door, it's there. So God is there. So like I just know that like it's everywhere, and I'm with God every day because of that. But even living here, there's different kinds of nature that I'm also inspired. It's just interesting to get those experiences, to see the world and the creative. That's why I like God is so creative. Like he will create tropical trees, and then he'll create pine trees. Here in the
snow trees or something.
Abstract.
I literally thought that when I was in I think Puerto Rico, and I was visiting you. I'm like looking and I'm seeing like tropical fish. And I'm just like, man, there's like fish back home in Washington, and then there's fish here, but they're like different fish. And same thing with like the trees and the flowers, It's like it's still a tree, but it's a different tree, And I'm the same way. It just gets me thinking about like God's like intricacy, It's just like the fine brush strokes, you could say, or like the attention to detail and the way everything runs, and how everything like reflects him, like a thunderstorm will reflect him, but so would like a peaceful sea or like a peaceful lake, And so
and like you said, mentioned that some paintings I'll have the verse. Sometimes I'll feel like, okay, I get the word. I'll feel like this piece is a perfect match to the word, that I'm about to. So then I'll combine it. Other times I'll paint a painting and then I'll look at it and then this word will come to me, or then I'll write what afterwards. Because a lot of the times when I create a painting, I don't know how it's going to turn out, and I have an idea, but oftentimes it just turns out, that's why it's interesting to me because it's always new,
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I also wanted to ask, because you see this thing, throughout the book of Psalms, where most of them David wrote, but other people did as well, where the Psalms, they're poetry, and they were also written to like music, so it's also this just like expression of art, but a lot of them are just like emotions being processed, So you could probably find every emotion throughout the book of Psalms. Like you could find like grief, you could find loneliness, you could find anger, you could find like great joy and excitement. You could find like heartbreak, just everything, every emotion. There's a psalm that just is that emotion being processed. And like I've heard before that a lot of times painters are the same way. Like I just have this random fact in my head from school. I don't know if you ever have that, but I remember learning about Picasso, and how Picasso, like, his dad passed away, and then all his paintings were like blue and kind of like just sadder, and then after some time he like met a girl, and then all of them got, excited again, and it's just a question that I wanted to ask, like, do you find that it's the same with you as well, where sometimes you'll just paint to like process things like that, right? Whether it's excitement and joy, or whether it's like maybe like grief or what, just anger or something, or and then like do you have like seasons where you're focusing on like one thing and just trying to like process it out? Has that been your experience?
That's a good question, and kind of so 100%, like me and Picasso, we're human beings, we're the same, and we're all the same people, where it's not like we're like we are the same, we have the same emotions, we can get angry, we can get happy, all those things, but the difference is that I feel from his, and I don't know if he's really deep inside saved or not, but so I don't want to speak for that, but for me I would say, for me it's I know that I believe in God, and I have faith in God, and I accepted God, and God lives in me, and I just believe that, and even though I'm flawed, he's still in me,
Yeah.
and he still is perfecting me and is making good things out of me. It's not because of me and how,
Yeah.
all the things I've done. It's because of him. So either way, like if let's say one artist has a landscape and then I have a landscape. The difference is I just believe and this person doesn't.
Yeah.
We have the same emotion. And I just feel like that, like because of that will reflect the light.
That's so good. That's so good. Like there's something deeper than just the emotions. Your trust in God, and it reflects. Because would you say that it's true that like whatever's going on inside of a person, that's what's going to be painted on the canvas? For the most part. Because I remember I was at this other art museum. I think it was in Estonia, in Tallinn. I just had like the day free, so I went to this art museum. And they had like a floor where it was just oil canvases, and it was like scenery and like, beautiful European towns and like people. And I love that. Like I could just look at those all day. It's so beautiful, and I'm just enjoying it. Like, man, thank you, God, like such beautiful art. And then I go into this other room where it's like, it's more modern, but it's a bit more like disturbing, like the art is very like you could see that, hey, the person that painted this was probably tormented on the inside, like probably, because it just makes you feel like, like there's something going on here, so this person was struggling with something. And I remember there, like when I was there, I had this idea, like, man, whatever state someone's in, not just emotionally, but I think you hit it perfectly, like spiritually, like that's gonna reflect, and I think
that's what I believe. I mean, I think that it's not in my power. Like I can create there's many artists that are way better, in my opinion, than what I'm doing, and they're not like successful. They didn't find that breaking point, or they're just, so there's amazing artists out there. But I believe the difference is that I believe God is leading the way, and kind of like through this, he's using that to break that wall to create water flowing, that with a stick. With Moses, but like use this to do something for me even unimaginable as a human being. Like what? Well, water from a rock? What? So like to me that's exciting to see, and I'm not. It also kind of again really like that pressure of trying to be perfect or trying to say the right words, or it kind of lets go, because that, well, it's in God's hands. I prayed about it. I'm putting the work, right? Because you don't want to just pray and sit there and wait for God to do it for you. I heard this thing. You probably heard it many times. It's probably not a great example, but like lifting, a couch or something. God will help, but you have to kind of
take one.
Help. I heard that so many times. But enjoy for those that heard it many times.
One more time.
It's a reminder. But yeah, I think that's the way it is. I think like God just wants to partner with us. Whatever and for example, this talent, I would even consider my thing more of years of practice, because I've been doing it for 18 years. And I was not that great in the beginning, I just practiced at home because people are like, oh, that's pretty good. Okay. I'm gonna try to get better, and because of practice, I think I can paint faster. I can do more things. So the interest is a gift from God. I believe the interest He put inside me, but the desire, to do this thing. But it's in my power, my hands to now. Like it's up to me how far I want to take it, how much practice. If I want to take courses, want to improve, it's totally each person.
You gotta partner with the
Lord. For example, you're a pastor, you're speaking, you've over the years you've gained, you said 8 years you've been speaking, you've gained that confidence, you became better, and you don't have that stress. But now this podcast is more newer, and so you're kind of like again going through that
doing it with the Lord.
And
that's good. That's good. Maybe just before we kind of start wrapping up, because I'm sure there's going to be people watching this that, let's say maybe they have some sort of skill or some sort of desire. I think because you could be skilled at something that you're like, I don't even care about that, but when you're skilled at it and you have this desire, like it's you love to do it, and maybe it's like a place that you come to with the Lord to do something. Maybe it's like songwriting, maybe it's just writing, maybe it's like coding, But let's say that your circumstances, you're nowhere in that world. Like maybe this is just a hobby, or maybe you kind of even like faded like straight away from it. Like you're just kind of like, oh, whatever, it's time to grow up, or it's time to get serious. But still, like in the back of your head or in your heart, you still feel, or they still feel that tugging to like, now this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be painting. I'm supposed to be writing music. I'm supposed to be, learning this instrument. I'm supposed to be speaking, whatever. Maybe you guys could just share like some words of encouragement of just like steps to take to just begin to move in that direction, and just to kind of like, name a few things that you guys already said, just to like summarize, then you guys could add a few things. We definitely seen that, it takes process, so don't be discouraged that it doesn't happen overnight, and also like trust the Lord, even when things look difficult. You also said about like having encouraging voices in your life, finding people that'll even just give you like practical tips. Like even when I was starting this, I texted you, Andrea, and I was just like, hey, do you have any just practical tips for how we should post these? But just finding people that could speak into it, right, and encourage you in it. And then and then is there any other? And then you also just mentioned like practicing at home. Like even if you're painting and it's not being posted at a coffee shop yet, but still you could practice at home, and you could ask your mom like, hey mom, what do you think, or your wife, or your kids or whatever, just like, hey, what do you think of this painting? Just beginning to start there.
No, for sure. Some of the things like I've like realized as I'm getting older and like through this experiences, is that it's so important to a lot of the times when I was younger, I thought about myself a lot, and like how I can sell a painting, how I can do this and that. That's good, that's not a bad thing. But one thing that I would say is think about bringing value to people. How can you like, if you want to do something, if that's in you, like how is that gonna like bring value to somebody, or is it only benefits you? As a young guy, I wish somebody would kind of tell me that. Like I didn't think about that. Like I thought about how can I, and maybe I had to go through even more steps and struggles. But if you can realize this, like what can I do to bring value to the family, to or like
to
with
change
music,
someone's life.
To change or help somebody through their life.
No, that's powerful. How to use this gifting to serve others,
serve others,
and lift them up, and lead them to the light. That's good.
That's like one of the things that we hear a lot. Like Felix was sharing stories about like how his art has helped people, and honestly, I feel like that's the difference between like what he was saying is like he has like millions of followers, whereas there's other people who are maybe more talented, like from his perspective, but like they would message him and be like, hey, how'd you grow so many followers, blah blah blah. And like the thing that I see is that it's because a lot of artists don't share their process. They don't share what materials they're using. They don't go out of their way to make lessons that could help people. It's like those kinds of things are all things that are like actually serving people that they can apply to their life. Whereas versus just sharing like your art, look at my art, how good it is, something like that. I think that also just don't expect things to be like super easy, like just because like having the desire is one thing, but it also don't be like surprised that it takes a lot of hard work. Like what you see now is like 7 years, 8 years in the making. Like it took us all these struggles and all these things, and like failure after failure after failure. Like you don't see all the failures, you just see like where people end up, and you think like, oh, he has this talent and it was easy. It was easy for him. Like he was already talented, but no, it's like 18 years of practice and then another 8 years of just trying to build this into a business, So don't be discouraged if it's taking you longer than you expect, or don't be surprised that it takes a lot of hard work and like perseverance to get to the place that maybe it is that God is leading you.
Definitely praying about every step. God will guide you, and bring the like tests through your life. And if you fail, don't, it's okay.
It's not
So
the
we
end.
fail.
It's not the end of the world.
You'll just face it again, and in a different way, an obstacle, whatever. But just keep pushing forward, keep praying, and again, we talked about this. It shouldn't be forced, like really forced. Like you still have to put the work, but it should not feel like you're really stretching and putting someone, like if I put my wife like in like a desperate situation, it's or like my family, right, where they're like really struggling. It's not it's like really putting too
you
much.
Shouldn't have to. I think I would say this: you shouldn't have to do something unbiblical in order to get to the place where God wants you to be.
That's a better way.
It should go smoothly.
Should
even though it takes hard work, it should. You should be able to live the life that God has called you to live on the way.
That's good. It's like it takes a lot of work to, let's say, grow an apple tree, but then those apples, they come out naturally. Like you don't pop them out.
Exactly.
You just work and you cultivate and you're partnering with God, right? And you're nourishing it, and you're tending to it. But it's a natural process, right? So there's partnership for sure, and maybe like difficult seasons to go through for sure. Right, because there's always winter, right, and there's no fruit in winter, and then you're like, why is there no fruit? But if you just endure and kind of like get through it with the Lord, then fruitfulness will always come from Him, and you could just trust that.
It's so good. And like just a couple examples for younger people that are into art or music, right? There's so many talented people. I just like want to like really encourage them, to come on, you have this gift, you can take care of it, grow in it. There's so much opportunity with like nowadays with social media, with YouTube, you can really monetize and help, like really not just help yourself, but help so many people, help your family and others. And but like for example, if you're a musician and you know how to set up your simple studio, why don't show on YouTube, like, hey, this is my equipment, like this is what I use, I've tested a couple and this is what I use, I like using this because of this, that, but this is what I use and here's how to set up real quick. And you can make several videos teaching people how you do that, as a musician, and then you still can put your music and still enjoy sharing your music, but you're also helping. That's just an example, or with art. In the beginning, I donated or I did fundraisers or like put my art at hospitals, for people to enjoy. Certain things like it just to think not that it will just come to your lap, you have to
just start taking some kind of steps, like move in that direction in some way, No, that's good. And I like what you said, like you're not just doing it, you're teaching others how to do it, like for anyone who wants to, so yeah, guys, well, thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much. It's been a wonderful conversation. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot, and I'm praying that it reaches the people that it should reach. Guys.
And this is the beginning. Amen. We're excited because God has greater things to be done in the city.
Amen. Praise God. Pulls out a guitar. And if anyone, of course, if anyone wants to follow you guys, Color by Feliks is your YouTube and your Instagram. Just awesome content, awesome page. So just encourage everyone to jump on it,
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, guys. And thank you, mi amor. Find a nice wife.
Amen.
That's another tip.
Amen. Praise God. And with that, we'll end with that.
We'll end there. See you guys.